Welcome to Marlene's Atelier. In this lesson, so exciting, we're going to be basting the beautiful facings that we cut and put those pockets in into the jacket. We're really going to start to see our coat take on some beautiful shape and form. So you're not going to want to miss this lesson. That's what's happening today in the Atelier. We have got our facings ready to go. Our pockets are in there. They look lovely. But what we need to do now is a couple of things. First, I'm going to press back my break line, okay? And I should mention as well that I've given the whole front of the coat a really good press. I didn't think you wanted to go through all that with me. All right, so I pressed the whole front of the coat beautifully with a press cloth, made sure everything looked really nice. All right, but here, what I want to do is I want to press the break line. Now, I'm not going to press the break line all the way down to the button position, okay? I'm going to come up, I guess this is always a sight thing for me, right? But I would say I'm going to be coming up from the button position maybe about 13 or 14 centimeters, okay? So that's going to bring me to about here, right about here, all right? Now you say, Mar, why don't you press the whole thing down? Well, it's not necessary to. We just really want the break line it's going to roll on its own. Why smash that down, right? We want a beautiful roll. And really what I look at is here, if you can see, if I turn this around so you can see it from my perspective, okay? If you look at the break line just laying there without any pressing whatsoever, you've got this beautiful roll that just comes around. And so when I look at like, well, what part of this do I want to press? I really don't want to mess around with this beautiful roll. So my eye kind of says, hey, let's press it from like here up and let the rest of all the handwork we did, all that pad stitching we did, let that take care of the rest of it. So that's kind of how I look at it. I hope that makes sense. So we have the advantage here. You can see where I had drawn my lines, but we can see our break line very clearly with our pads or our pick stitches, okay? And so we just want to grab a little bit of water and just get it right along the break line, right up to the top of the gorge here, and just get that nice and wet, okay? And then we can just press that down, okay? So that's the first thing we have to do. The second thing we have to do before we put our facing in is we have to cross stitch down both our pocket bag and our button, where we put this protection, button support, if you will, okay? So we have to give those a good cross stitch real quick, and then we'll be all set to go with our facing, okay? So just double check and make sure you're spot on here. This is important because things are going to fit together a certain way. Just off a smidgen here. Just fix that right up there, okay? So here we have our beautiful lapel and our beautiful break line all pressed out real nice and just rolling back beautifully. Looks great. Yeah, okay? So now here, we have to come in and we have to do a little bit of cross stitching, okay? And again, let me grab my thread here. I'm going to use my machine thread. It's nice and thin, just like everything else, okay? We'll get that started here. Just a little bit of beeswax, right, as always. Now, when we're cross-stitching down the pocket bag, what's important is that you don't want to cross-stitch it really tight, okay? You have to remember we still want the bag to be able to move around because we're going to be putting our hand in it. And if we cross-stitch it down too tight, all right, then what's going to happen is it's going to pull on the outside. So what I'm doing here as I start my cross stitch is I'm only grabbing the pocket bag and nothing underneath, okay? So I'm just going to grab that and I'll tack this off here, all right? Like so. And then I'm going to come up above, I'm not going to come right above, but just slightly higher than the pocket bag itself and grab the canvas. All right, and this is a pretty big stitch. And then again, I'm just grabbing the pocket bag, okay? And I'm pulling it tight where the stitches are laying on top of the bag and the canvas. I don't want it to not, I don't want to give it too much give, but by giving it a bigger stitch and only grabbing one layer instead of two, you're setting up for a much looser situation and allowing the pocket bag to move around, okay? So that's what we're doing here, so that it doesn't create a big pull on the outside of the coat. So that wouldn't be very nice. That wouldn't be very nice. After all the time and effort we've put into this, right? We don't want it to look awful. No, not at all. All right, so here, and then I'm just going to work my way around the side of the pocket bag here, okay? Here. So. So again, I'm only picking up the canvas here and only picking up the pocket bag here and here. And I'm going to work my way down to about right here, okay? That's all you need. You don't want to go all the way down. Just to where, basically where my facing ends is where I'm going to stop, all right? That way all that's closed up and protected. And we still have room to move our hands around, okay? That's easy enough. Easy enough. All right. Like I said, I just want to make sure I'm only picking up the canvas and not any cloth. We don't want to see that. All right, so here we go. This should do it right here. And I'll just tack it off here on the bag. Okay, so that was pretty simple. Nothing too hard about that at all. So that way we know that the bag now is secure. Okay, nice and secure. But, as we put our hand in and we move around, we can see this has plenty of room to move, you see? This can move and not be too restricted. And honestly, I'm not going to worry about this part of the bag over here. I think enough of it is secure that I don't need to lose any sleep over this side, okay? Now here, we are going to, we have to also cross stitch down our button support, okay? And again, here, of course, I'm going to be grabbing both the silicea and the canvas, okay? And then here, just the canvas. And again, this does not have to be a small cross stitch at all. It's bigger than these cross stitches here, okay? Bigger than those. And again, we don't want to grab anything on the outside. So make sure you're just getting the canvas. You're only through to the canvas and nothing more. So these are a pretty big cross stitch. Maybe a couple centimeters apart. And the reason for that, again, is, this isn't going to be moving around a whole lot. This is just here to give another layer of support to our buttonhole when we go to put in our buttonhole and our button, okay? And our button. So, and our button. So it's always important when you're cross-stitching or doing any kind of handwork like this that you can feel what's going on the other side. That's why I've got my hand under here, because as I pick up my silicea and the canvas, my finger is feeling the cloth, okay? And it's feeling whether or not the cloth is being pulled away from my hand. If I feel the cloth itself being pulled away, I know I've caught it, okay? If I feel a void between the cloth and the canvas, all right, which is very easy to feel, then I know I'm home free, all right? So it's very important. That's why I say when you're developing your hand for tailoring, a lot of it is about feel. A lot of it is just about feel. So let me get a little bit more thread here. Okay, just get a little more. All right, still have remnants of scraps of my pocket. Goodness gracious. All right, I know you probably wonder what the floor looks like down here below me, right? It gets pretty messy, but that's okay. I take very good care of my workshop. I keep it very clean. I clean up every evening, give it a little pick up, or sometimes it might need a vacuum. That's all right. Yeah, I can't work in a mess. When things start getting too disheveled, I get like anxious. I get like an anxiety attack. I need some sort of order to my chaos, I guess, right? So, all right. So here I'm just working my way up real quick. Get rid of this little leftover thread. Okay. And we're just going to work our way around and down here real quick. So we should be done in a moment. Just to get this on real nice. All right. This is a little awkward sewing like this. I'm used to sewing with the free edge away from me, but when you're cross-stitching and you've got to start on the left, there are times where your sewing situation is a little awkward, so not much you can do about that. So here, if I just highlight these cross stitches for you so you can see the size. They're a little hard when it's black on black, but if you can see there, that's basically the size, and up here as well. So you can see how big these cross stitches are here, okay? Hopefully that's helpful so you can see them. So they're not small at all. They're not as small as these, that's for sure. Okay? That'll just help you to see a little bit better what I'm doing. Just well enough to hold it down. Okay, here's going to be fun. I apologize, you probably won't be able to see much here of what I'm doing. Actually, I could lay this flat because I'm just working on the chest canvas and there's a lot of layers here. So it's doubtful that I'll make it out to the front of the garment this way. Okay. Just right through here. That's fine. Again, make sure that these are never, ever tight, okay? You don't want these to be tight. Again, we graduated this, so there's a little bit of a free edge here that I do want to make sure I cross-stitch down real quick so we don't risk it getting folded or caught into something we don't want. All right, very good. So we're done there. This is perfect. All done, all ready to go. And right away, we can tack that and we can get off our little, we can take out our baste here that was holding it in. Get rid of that so we don't need it. It has done its job. Thank you very much. He has done his job. He is lost in there somewhere. There we go. Okay. All right. So that's lovely. All right. So we have the break line pressed. We've got our pocket bag nicely cross-stitched. Let's get that off of there. We've got our buttons support nicely cross-stitched. And now what we're going to do, get the baby out of here, let's make some room for ourselves, because now we're going to baste our beautiful facing in, okay? So let's just review very quickly what we did, all right? When we cut this, we had where we had basically drawn our facing in with our pocket and all that, right? So now what we can do is we can match all of this up really nice here. I mean, almost to the perfection, all right? Like so. So we know exactly where all of this is going, all right? Just like that. Just like that. We'll make sure we have enough at the bottom here. So if we look, we should wind up exactly where we planned everything to be, all right? So we can take, I always say it's really good to pin the pocket down, all right? We're going to pin this pocket down because otherwise it has a way of just moving all over the place when you're trying to get this situated, okay? And so even though we're going to be creating ease and so forth, that little pin is not going to bother us a whole lot, okay? So here, once I've got all that laid out real nice, I'm just going to pick this up and very gently turn it over. And of course, I'll have to reposition this a bit here, okay, to make sure I have it exactly where I want it to be. Here, just matching things up, okay? And I think this could come up just a tiny little bit more. There we go. That'll do it. So I believe I tried to match everything up at least horizontally here. Yeah, just slightly. Okay, I think that looks good. All right, let's lay that out beautifully. Lovely. So we have enough up top. A little bit here at the bottom. That's fine. That's plenty. We left about 1.5 centimeters at the top and at the bottom. I've left a little bit more here, obviously, because I'm going to trim that back. But eventually we're going to end up with this, you know, without falling on a major, you know, a major stripe here, okay? Which is what we wanted. We don't want a major stripe on the edge of our lapel. All right. So after we've got everything situated and looking good, we're going to do a series of bastes here. And in each of those bastes, we're going to be creating ease. Let me make sure I've got this situated so you can see everything nicely. Okay. And in some cases, in one baste, we're going to be creating multiple different types of ease. It's pretty cool though. So let me show you. The first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your first baste is coming off the edge at least a centimeter. Okay, so if I come in here with a little bit of white chalk and I just chalk back a centimeter for myself, all right, because I want to have enough room to turn my edge back. And if I get too close to the edge with this baste, okay, I'm going to have a problem. So we're going to come back, and here I can just use this main stripe that runs along the edge here as a guide. All right. So now my very first baste is going to be right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack this off right at the top of the lapel and tack it off. All right, like so. Excellent. And what we're going to do now is we're going to just give this a nice push with our finger. Okay, my basting stitches are about 1.5 or 2 centimeters long at the very most, with just about a 0.5 centimeter in between each stitch. So we're keeping things pretty small and close together, okay? So if you remember when we were canvassing the front of the jacket, we did the same thing here along the very first base that we did. If you remember, here on this first base, we really gave it a good push. And I'm doing the same thing here. Okay, I'm just giving this a real good push. And keeping it about a centimeter off the edge. So this is creating ease along the edge of the lapel, which will, it's actually a horizontal ease, which will distribute back over the entire width of the lapel, okay, which is really important. You know, if you look at this lapel, it doesn't look like there's a lot of ease, but if you move your finger on it, you see that cloth is not real tight, all right? It's not real tight at all. If it was, you'd see all kinds of wrinkles and pulling going on. The whole bloody jacket is just one big exercise of creating ease, honestly. It really is. Okay, and then here, I'm just gonna, these last couple of stitches at the bottom of my lapel, I'm just gonna give a quick little swipe. Okay, I'm gonna tack it here. Just gonna tack this right here. Again, I'm about a centimeter off of my front edge now, okay? Now what I'd like to do here, where my button position is I want to create some ease along the button position, okay? And the reason I want to do that is so that when we do put the buttonhole and the button in, there's not a lot of tightness there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here from my first button position about, let's just call it 12 centimeters, okay? And I'm just going to make a line here, all right? And from that line, I'm going to come down another 0.5 centimeter on the cloth, on the actual facing, okay? And what I want to do is I want to match that. So I just want to create about a 0.5 centimeter of ease, okay, by pulling this up to my mark here. So that's just a 0.5 centimeter, and we'll look at all that ease we create. Now, what's important here, we have to also pay attention, because if you remember, when I originally cut this, I swung this out by 1.5 centimeters, okay? And so now what I want to do is I want to swing it back in, okay? And I want to keep this, nice and even here. I'll keep it nice and even with regards to how much cloth I have out, all right? So here at my button position, I have about 1 centimeter of cloth, and that's more than what I need, okay? And so I want about the same here. I want to have about 1 centimeter here. Now, when you swing that cloth back and into, and just for the moment, I'm just going to put a little pin here to hold that. I'll have to take it out in a minute. But it's very important, because what we've done in doing that is we've created some ease by bringing the cloth back and into the jacket, okay? All right, so here, what we're going to do now is we're just going to distribute that 0.5 centimeter of ease evenly over this, 11.5 or 12 centimeters here, okay? And again, I'm going to stay about 1 centimeter off of my edge. And these stitches I'm just going to make a little bit smaller. I'm going to keep these at about maybe 1 centimeter apart, just a little bit smaller, so I distribute this ease properly, okay? Yeah. Here. Let's get this stuff out of the way so you can see what on God's green earth I'm doing. Okay. It's good. And then right here, we'll tack this off right here, okay? And all that nice ease is now contained between the button position and that 12 centimeters down, all right? And so now what I can do the rest of the way is I'm going to smooth my cloth just like we did when we were canvassing, okay? So I'm just going to smooth my cloth the rest of the way, staying off my edge by 1 centimeter. And again, I've got multiple areas of ease going on here, especially with this coat being longer. We want to have a lot of ease in this facing because the coat is long. And we don't want it to get, we don't want it to be tight at all, or it can create all kinds of havoc on the outside of the coat. Okay. Okay. Keep everything nice and even. Make sure this isn't tight, okay? Just make sure it's not tight. Don't pull your stitches tight, is what I mean. Okay, right down here to the bottom. We'll stay about 1 centimeter off the bottom as well, because we do have to turn that edge up, okay? So right here, we'll just stop right here. Tack it off. All right, very good. So now, there we go. Okay, so now if we turn this over, you can see all the ease that we've created throughout the facing. We've got a beautiful amount of ease right here along the lapel. That's going to be our next area that we tackle, okay? We've got some really nice ease here along the button position and beyond, and then throughout the rest of the coat, all right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to tackle our second baste here, and I'm going to use the baby to do this. So what I want to do is I want to fold back my lapel. And so we created this ease. You can see it here. What we want to do with this ease, because it's horizontal, we want to make sure that this ease is continued through the entire lapel, okay? Let me just get myself centered in here nicely. Keep this nice and neat, okay? Centered through the lapel. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to baste through. I'm going to come over and down through the middle of the lapel and around, okay? And so when I'm doing that, what I'm doing is I'm trying to keep this ease that we just put in horizontally distributed evenly. I don't want to push it down, you see, or push it up. I just want to push it this way. So we're going to contain all that with this next baste, okay? Very important. Who knew, right? Facing was such an ordeal. It's a big deal. You don't want it to get all tight. All right, so here what I'm going to do is I can feel the edge of my lapel right here, okay? And again, I don't want to get involved in that because I have to turn this edge in. So I'm just going to come beyond my stitch, my stitches that I had here, okay? And I'm going to tack this off in the corner like so, all right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this stripe right here to mark pretty much the midpoint of my lapel. That seems fair, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to baste over to that stripe, okay? Just going to keep things nice and loose. Keep this curved around my hand, okay? Baste over to that lapel, that stripe, nice and easy. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to baste all the way down that stripe. And as we do, we're going to just smooth things and keep our hand, if you can see, my hand is positioned like this, okay? So I've got the lapel kind of rolling up over my hand a bit to help distribute that ease nicely. And I'm just going to take some nice, easy stitches. Easier said than done, yeah? And work my way all the way down the lapel, making sure that I'm not pushing anything. I'm containing. What I'm doing is by using my hand and rolling, this ease is just, it's just laying there very nicely over the width of the lapel. And now I'm just containing it. I'm grabbing it and containing it as I work my way down. Okay? I'm not making my stitches too small. There's maybe about maybe 1.5 centimeters between each of my stitches. Okay? They're not tight at all. They're just laying there. They're just laying there, okay? They're just laying on the lapel. And I'm going all the way through the lapel to the other side when I stitch, okay? Nice and loose. Distributing that ease nicely. Okay, so as I come down here, where the lapel starts to turn over to the other side, okay? Again, we're just going to keep going. down this stripe until we get to the inside of the coat here, okay? It's nice and loose, keep it nice and loose, nice and gentle, okay? Till I can't really see what I'm doing anymore here. I'm almost there. A couple more stitches and we're gonna flip it. We're gonna flip it to the inside. One more, I think. We're basically working our way just about to the button position here. I've got a couple more stitches. Just a couple more stitches here. Yeah. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it, let's see, I want to work this way. Okay. All right. I'm going to just tack that. Yeah. All right. In fact, I'm going to get rid of the baby. And now what I want to do is I just want to work my way down the rest of the front here. Okay. So I'm going to bring this over. And I want to pretty much distribute the rest of this ease here, okay? Just keep it, you see, if I see a ridge here like so, you see that? I don't want to push it this way or this way. I want to let it be where it wants to be, okay? So that's all I'm doing here in this baste is I'm just letting the ease where it's sitting, I'm keeping it there. I'm not trying to push it one way or another. So what that does is that distributes the ease from being just here to being all the way out through to the whole width, if you will, the width of, if you will, of the facing. Okay. So here our stitches can be a little bit bigger, just to distribute that nice. Okay. Just make sure you're not pushing it up or down. In fact, I just give it a nice little pat like this, and then I baste. And I just pat it a little bit, let it fall where it wants, and I baste. Okay, that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Here, I'm going to run out of thread, which is not a big deal. Let's get that knocked out. All right. Let's bring this up so you can see what's in front of me here, what I'm doing. I'll just tack that off again. And then here. Tack it. Just pat it a little bit, distribute it. That's all you need to do. And as long as you don't see any big pulls, if you just see consistent ripples going across your cloth like this, you know you're doing it right. If you see things being pulled down like this, you know something's off a little bit. You need to go back and make a correction, okay? That's all you need to do. And then we're going to just work our way down to the bottom here, okay? And we're going to have to fold this edge up and in, so I don't want to come down too far. I think I'll just make this my last stitch right here. And make sure that's not tight. Okay? And we'll just tack that. All right, so that's baste number 2. Those are probably the hardest ones, I think, to really get. for me, when I was first learning how to do this, it was a little, it took a lot of practice, I guess. So, because you really, you got to get a real good feel for how much ease you're creating. And so it can be a little trying, without a doubt. All right, so now what I'm doing here is I've got my beautiful lapel that's been pressed, right? So what I want to do is I just want to roll my lapel over, okay, here. Let's get everything here nice. All right. Let's get everything here laying nice. Very good. Okay. Now, first of all, make sure that your break line is laying nice and flat here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start here just at the top of my gorge, okay? And what I want to do is I want to smooth this cloth back, but I don't want it to be so tight, okay, that it's going to pull the cloth on the other side. So we're going to come about a couple of centimeters off of the break line, right? This is my break line right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently smooth this over, okay? And you can tell if you feel this and you feel like the break line is kind of buckling on you, you know it's too tight, okay? So just give it a nice smooth, just to smooth it out, real soft. And then the other good thing to do is put your ruler in here so that you don't run the risk of sewing your lapel to the jacket, because that would be bad, okay? And so we're just going to tack this off very nicely here, okay? Just going to give this a very gentle smoothing, and I'm coming down maybe 2 centimeters and basting. So I'm a couple centimeters off of the break line, and then I'm coming a couple centimeters here, okay? A couple centimeters down, and just grabbing that. It's nice and smooth. Doesn't have to be anything hard. And so what this is doing, this is making sure that that you're maintaining some ease around the actual break line itself, okay? So the actual break line itself should have some ease. In other words, I can come in here, and if I open the break line up, I can actually grab some cloth here, okay? I can actually grab cloth. So I don't want it so tight that I can't grab cloth. All right, but I don't want it so loose that it's drooping and so forth either, okay? So we're just going to work our way down here a little bit more. Just about to the button position, and that'll be all we need to do. Now all of this baste, okay, for the most part, all of the basting for this should literally stay in, okay, until you're done finishing. Yeah. Very much so, especially the base on the lapel. I basically leave all of those base in until I'm finished. Pick stitching, the whole front of the garment is being finished out. That's when I take those bases out, because I really want to keep that ease isolated, okay, until everything has been finished. It's really tempting. I think I'm just going to finish this one more here, and we'll finish this out. It's really tempting to want to take all these basting stitches out and look at the work and say, ooh, it looks so nice. But it's really important to leave them in until things are completely finished, okay? I know, it's very tempting. All right, so let's just have a look at this here so you get a feel for what I'm saying. So if I open this up, okay, and I lay this down flat, I can pull, I actually have some ease here, right? I can pull in my finger maybe about 1/8 of an inch or so. That's all I'm looking for. But you can see there's ease. You want that, you want there to be ease, but you don't want it to be so tight when it's folded back that you've got a problem with, you know, the break line pulling. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. All right. Our very last baste here is really to hold the facing in place until we get ready to cross stitch it. Because that will be really our next couple of steps here is going to be cross stitching all of this here, here, wherever there isn't a pocket in the way, we can cross stitch, all right? And then turning back the edge. Once we have all that done, we're going to start putting lining in, if you can believe it. We've got a couple of things that we're going to do that are very important. Here, I'm going to bring this about 2 centimeters off of the edge to baste this down and hold it, okay? This is just preparing the facing for cross stitching here. So we don't have to make this super tiny. You know, we can make these 2 or 3 centimeters long. It's just to baste everything nice. There's going to be some housekeeping items that we need to address before we start lining. We're going to be putting in some more hem supports. We're going to be putting a hem support in around the arm side. And then we're going to be chain stitching the arm side. And that's a really important step because the entire arm side is literally on the bias. And like we've talked about, we don't want things on the bias to stretch out. So we're going to go in and we're going to chain stitch all around the arm side, both the front and the back. And we're going to put in some hem supports to do that, just like we did here at the bottom. We're going to take some lining and put some in there. We're going to put some hem support around our neckline. And so these are just some housekeeping items that we'll do in between all this fun stuff, okay? But they're very important, especially because of the type of sleeve we're doing. You know, this is British bespoke. Now, before I gab too much, as I get back down here and as I continue to do this baste, it's important that we keep the, we maintain the integrity of our ease here, okay? So don't be pushing this up and down. Let the ease sit where it is and just capture it in this baste, all right? Just like so. But the type of, tailoring that I do is British bespoke tailoring, which is very, very structured, very, very structured. And so this sleeve that we do is called a roped sleeve. And part of what makes it as structured as it is, other than literally the 13 steps it takes to put the damn sleeve in, at least by my count, it could be more, is this chain stitching around the sleeve, which is super cool. And like I said, it helps keep the arm side from stretching out too much. And it helps really to create this beautiful, this beautiful structured line here. Just beautiful. I can't wait to show you how to put a sleeve in by hand. I can't go back to doing it by machine. It just doesn't make sense at all. All right, so this is our last and final baste. I'm just babbling away over here. I'm going to run out of thread, of course. I won't have enough to get to the bottom, but that's okay. It's just close enough, right? It's close enough here, people. That's good. Okay, now that we've got the facing all basted in, what we need to do is we need to press it, okay? We need to press all of this ease out, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. And of course, we're going to use a press cloth. All right, we're going to use a press cloth here. Let's get a little bit of water, not too much, just a bit, and we'll press this out real nice. Press all this ease out. We put it in, we got to take it out, right? Got to take it out. Ah, there you go. Beautiful. I love it. I love that. It just looks so nice. And that'll always be there. It will never go away. You see? It'll never go away. All right. Here I'll fold the lapel back and we'll just concentrate on the ease here real quick. Okay. All right. Okay, and now here on this side, what I want to do is I want to take and put my press cloth underneath along the break line here, and then the lapel over it. And then we'll just bring this like so. All right, and put a little water on this and press that out. Okay? Careful here that we don't want to press the break line down at the bottom, right? We just want to press it up here at the top. We don't want to put that heavy fold in there, okay? All right. So this is all ready now for the next couple of steps we have, which will be turning in the edges and cross-stitching everything. So there's our beautiful facing. Very happy with that. That looks gorgeous. Very satisfying. Thank you for joining me in the atelier today. If you're enjoying these lessons, please do like them, share them with your friends and other tailoring enthusiasts, and please do subscribe. I do appreciate it. And in my next lesson, we're going to be wrapping up facings. I'm going to show you how to trim and turn back the edge and cross stitch them down. You won't want to miss it. That's what's going to be happening next time in the atelier.